Welcome in. Don't adjust your clocks. I know everybody sprung forward, but here at the station, our good friends over at Comcast are working in the area, and our internet did go down. So if it goes down, we're apologize. We're going to give it everything we can here on Innovative Strategies with Bill Haase to get through it. So, and we may have a guest or two that stuck around that may show up. So we'll go and play it by ear, Bill.
Yeah, we'll run with what we've got here. Happy St. Patty's Day.
Yeah.
First and foremost, hope you're all safe out there. I drove by a few bars that were completely packed this morning. So
get beef and cabbage.
Get an early start. Yeah, what's interesting about that? Being a Catholic, I can't have meat on Fridays, right, during Lent.
However,
no, the Chicago Archdiocese came out and said, nope, we're sticking to it. We're sticking to our guns, even though the rumor was out there that you could have dispensation today, but take another day to exercise that. But the Boston Archdiocese said, we're going to give you a break.
So stupid. I got a lot of issues with that.
So,
anyway, there you go.
And we don't have Boston Market around here anymore, so
can't
kind of, boom. But yeah,
so a lot going on in the world of finance over the last couple weeks, 14 days or so.
Yeah, yeah. A couple of banks decided to check out and.
Played the game long enough, said we're done.
Yeah, and now we've got the media playing it all up. It's, the sky is falling, the financial world's going to collapse, banks are collapsing, and people panic. And classic case of misinformation, classic case of financial illiteracy.
Yes.
Because people they panic in this stuff. And you'd think something like this would encourage folks to go out and learn more about how this happens, what's really going on, and get a little more financially literate, but it's typically not the case. It still doesn't. We still go in blind. Look, folks, a couple of banks have failed. There'll probably be a couple more. Are they all failing at the same time because they're all mismanaged? No, there's other factors that are involved, and factors like rising interest rates, right? And you think, why? Well, banks would make more money when they're charging a higher rate, right? They said, well, if they can lend the money out, yes, that has that potential. But there's much more that goes to that. I don't want to get too deep into the weeds. But suffice to say, look, as I was saying before the show, we've had, in the last 20 years, I heard we've had something in the neighborhood of 525 bank failures.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is nothing new.
Right.
We're accustomed to it. Many people have felt this before. Most of us, though, weren't involved in a bank like SVB where, major hedge funds and having friends in the right places cover. Don't worry, we're going to make you good. Y'all good.
Y'all good. We got you.
Yeah.
We got you.
That's those hedge fund managers getting taken care of.
Well, and knowing what I know about the industry as well is when a bank makes a loan, then you have to be able to back that loan. You got to have the money to do. Now, that bank out in Silicon Valley made a lot of tech startup loans. They were very aggressive. There's a pretty good risk there.
Well invested in the whole San Francisco area.
Right.
Yeah. And
right.
Yep.
So a lot of startup and so there's a lot of risk there. Well, take a look at good seeing you, Scott. Thanks for hanging out.
See you, man.
So you take a look at how many started there in 2020.
Yeah.
When we needed to rely on all those technical jobs. Well, now people are getting back to work. We're not using the same amount of technology, or maybe we're using the same amount, but
I would almost argue we're using more because we're working from home. Everybody has to use technology now, and the tech world is obviously very important, right? We're going through. We're still in the early phases of this technology revolution. To be honest with you, in my mind, anyway, I don't think it's. You can tell because we're speeding up. Life is sped up.
Yeah.
In our lifetime, we right long cords on the phones on the wall. to instant information on your phone, which is why a bank run doesn't look like a bank run anymore.
Yeah.
Everybody keeps referring to It's a Wonderful Life type of a bank run.
Yeah.
Now it's electronic.
Yeah.
So it can happen quickly. It can be very painful. It can be for all the wrong reasons, because we still believe everything we read on the internet, right? We TikTok. Come on.
Always. Yeah.
Why would we get rid of TikTok? They give us so much good information.
Right. It's true. And then that's where a lot of people base a lot of things, and get their education from.
Yes. Dumbfounds me to some extent, but
yeah,
because it's easier.
Yeah.
Right. And as human nature is to do things the easy way if we can.
Right. And really the SVB situation was, I'm unbuttoning my shirt and you think that it's a Superman, so I leave you alone, or you leave me alone, and then it was, whoops, that must have stood for sucker.
Well, let's not look.
Right.
Let's not look past the fact that this was a very poorly managed company.
Correct.
A bank.
Correct.
Okay? It was almost as if these guys came out of learning art school or English school and went into the banking industry without any experience. I mean, these guys made some pretty simple, basic mistakes.
Yeah.
That should have been caught by the feds, should have been looked over by our Federal Reserve, but our Federal Reserve does not seem to be quite in the, let's say, authoritative position that one might be accustomed to seeing in the past.
Right.
I'm an old Ben Bernanke guy.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And Ben was classic, man. He was brilliant.
Yeah.
And the beauty of Ben Bernanke was you had to read between the lines. I'm sorry, I'm confusing. It's not Ben Bernanke. It was Greenspan.
Oh, okay.
Greenspan.
Yeah.
Bernanke came after him, and no, he was not as good. But Greenspan was brilliant. And whenever he spoke, he knew how much that would affect the markets, and all kinds of markets, not just the stock market, the futures markets, all kinds of markets. And so he chose his words very, very carefully and his actions very, very carefully. I don't think that, I've been saying for over a year now, well over a year, that when the Federal Reserve made the choice to change from front running inflation to chasing it, you're never gonna catch up. You're holding the tiger by the tail. It doesn't work.
Right. And
we're seeing that. This is clearly seeing that right now.
Yes.
And people don't understand. Interest rates are still lower than the inflation. That's not a good thing.
Correct.
Okay. That's not a good thing.
I understand that. Right.
And inflation's still pretty strong.
Yeah.
But it's talk about, and they try to play up, all the jobs, and then the job rate and but we keep hearing about tens of thousands of layoffs in the tech world.
Mm-hmm.
I think Amazon or
Google, Google. Both of them I think did.
Both of them have done it. There's more going out the door, and projects are being stopped, or discontinued, however you want to phrase that. There's turmoil. There's a lot of turmoil out there.
Yeah.
We're a divided country.
Yep.
Many of us are divided in what we want for the country, what we think should be happening for the country. But I got to tell you, man, we're in a little bit of a spiral. And in that world, anything can happen. Look at, a week ago, cryptocurrency was getting beaten up.
Yeah.
This week, it's doing dandy.
Right.
It's doing wonderful. In and out. Kind of like the weather around here, right? It could be 55 degrees one day, and tomorrow it's supposed to be a wind chill of like -0, or -5 or something in the morning. I know, because I'm working an event tomorrow morning, and I said, this is going to be just like last year. It's going to be freezing cold.
That's right.
Sure enough. But so I don't panic. This is not nothing good comes out of panicking.
Yeah.
Okay. You really need to kind of rein it in, get a grip, get a plan. Of
right.
course, we talk about planning all the time here, and
Well, and understand who you're talking to and where you're getting your wisdom from,
Yes,
right?
that helps.
So what I mean by that is I know community banks, and I've talked with people who work and are up in the upper parts of those community banks, and there's no talking points that have come out,
Hmm.
right? So uh, either they're not concerned, or their customers figure, well, we've seen this before, or whatever. So, I mean, usually you see, oh my gosh, let's get some talking points out because there's going to be a lot of calls.
Well,
And this,
there's
that, and
fear of
third.
being misunderstood.
Yeah.
There's fear of liability.
Yeah.
We have that, the banking world and in the finance world, you have that little department over here that is called compliance.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the last thing you want to do is piss off somebody in the compliance department, because Lord knows they probably don't know all that well what they're doing either, but they're hawks. They're looking for mistakes. They're looking to catch you.
Right.
Not all. I mean, there's compliance people out there that are brilliant and do good work and only look to support the people on the front lines. But that's a funky world. I mean, I've talked to many people in compliance world that don't have a quarter of the experience I have, and I love to have conversations with compliance, because
and I've
done a lot with them over the years.
And a lot of people may call your personal banker. And to be honest with you, 90% of the personal bankers out there in the world today don't understand how a bank as a business operates and moves.
Right.
They go, well, let's take a look at your fee. I can take a look at, those type of things.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, a banker's got to be very cautious about the message they put out there. Right.
Right. Very.
You're not hearing from any of the big names in the banking world right now.
Nope.
I mean, I know there's a group of the highest level in banking world putting together a large fund.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard somewhere in the neighborhood of $30 billion.
Mm-hmm.
And
quote unquote non-taxpayer money.
Yes.
What they're touting.
That's what they're touting, but it's if it came from taxes or came out of your pocket straight out, what's the difference? But anyway, and that's the bailout. And unfortunately, I we don't know the whole picture, the whole story, but what I'm understanding is kind of help bail out the SVB folks, which are the hedge fund guys, which which are the already a privileged operation to begin with.
Yep.
But again, we don't know the whole story. We won't ever know the whole story. And there's a reason for that. And it's on purpose. And, part of it is because most of us are so financially illiterate, we wouldn't understand anyway. And it's a high level, to be fair.
So are these things happening to try to create you go up to Canada and there's 3 banks, right? Basically, is this starting to go, and are the people who are pooling together this money starting to go,
well,
and is that good or is that bad?
We don't know. It's a good question.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to throw an answer out there just to try and put an answer out there, because we don't know.
Yeah.
We honestly don't know the state of so many banks.
Correct.
And clearly what we've learned is neither does the Federal Reserve.
Yeah. Nor are we trying to create panic. That's not what we're doing here. We're just having a conversation. Two guys here.
Yeah. No, it's you're in the banking world. I've got a little bit of background in that.
Yep.
And it's not a time to panic.
No.
Now we get back to this FDIC $250,000 that it went up to $250,000 protection in 2008, which isn't that long ago.
Not so long ago.
I was kind of surprised when I saw that. But there was a time that it was only $5,000.
That's right.
And
That's right.
$250,000 nowadays, I know, is a lot of money to most people, but it's not a lot of money when you're in the banking world and in the finance world.
No, correct.
It just isn't enough to cover anything in that world. So it's and then there's the idea.
That's a weekend of golf with Michael Jordan.
Yeah,
and you bet that money.
Banks have ways to do things where you might have $1 million in this account, but you're covered for all 1 million.
Yeah.
because, there's ways to do that instead of having to open 4 different accounts and put $250,000 in each, keep track of everything, moving money back and forth. There are ways to do that, in much more conservative ways.
Mm-hmm.
But so banking world's been around for hundreds and hundreds of years.
Yep.
I mean, I know some of those German banks, Commerce Bank and Deutsche Bank, they've been around 200 years.
Yep.
They know what they're doing. Banks, they make fractions of a penny.
Yeah.
And they do it well. And problem we've run into, greed, money. It's the driving force.
System.
We want to make money the easy way, the fastest way, the simplest way. And that's not how it works. We forgot about doing it the right way.
Yeah.
And we forgot a long time ago.
And that's a hard thing to do, is to say what's the right way.
It is when it's been so long
Right.
since we've done it the right way, and it is when there's no desire to, and it is when you're so far removed.
Yeah.
It's you're just used to doing things, and we're all guilty of this, right? We do things the way we know to do things, the way we've always done things, and we don't change, even though there's a better way. I saw a really cool thing. It might have been on Facebook. It was an American kid and I think a kid from the Philippines. They were doing the same math problem, multiplying 87 times 26. The kid from the Philippines was done like that because of the way that young kid, and we're talking 8, 9, 10-year-old kid.
Yeah.
The American kid was still writing when the video finished. And I bet people would be shocked if they understood how far behind we are in the world of education in this country. I'm heavily into that, and it is bad, really bad, way behind, to the point where I thank the good Lord I don't have any children in the school system right now. If you want to panic about something, panic about that.
Yeah. I mean, we could retrace education, and you could almost pinpoint where it fell off the tracks. And again, it's about greed. Again, it's about it's not about teaching, right? It's not about education. It's about
anymore.
It's about I sit in a certain chair, and if my school does so well on tests, I get a raise.
Or if my class doesn't do well, I get fired. So. Right. We're just going to make sure we're just going to spend a whole year studying how to take this test.
Yeah, not going to learn you anything.
And then we're going to go on a hope and a prayer that y'all do well enough that I keep my job. But it can be worse than that. So this happened to my brother-in-law. He was with CPS, and his class did not pass 1 year, and he got fired. He went on. He's been teaching in private schools in the city, that religious schools that don't pay a lot. But he loves it, and he's a very good teacher. But he just found out a few months ago he ran into a problem. The school, one of the schools he was working at, finally completed their background after like 4 or 5 months, and found out that the CPS had put a do not hire on him.
Oh, jeez!
When they let him go. Now we're short 5,700 teachers in the state of Illinois. Short 5,700 teachers in the state of Illinois. Right now, and you're putting do not hire onto teachers who want to teach because their class failed the test. I mean, I don't know where to even go with how dumb how dumb that is. But again, when you have people running organizations like that are more eyes on the money than they are eyes on the person, that's what happens.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that the state is putting out money to give to schools. They just announced it. Pritzker's giving out money, and none of it's going to Chicago. I go, oh, but that's because the federal government gave the state of Illinois money for just Chicago schools.
That's right.
All right. So again, we're living off federal money and telling everybody the state's in great situation. But we keep losing businesses. Look at Jeep. They just closed.
Out in Belvedere?
Belvedere.
Oh, that whole place closed?
It is in the process of being completely shut down.
Wow. That's going to hurt.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wow. I didn't know that. Did you know that? Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, there's the, I got ears and eyes all over the place, and I have lots of conversations with people globally.
Sure.
And globally, things are not going well. I mean, if you think you got it rough here in the U.S., go anywhere else.
Right.
Go to any other country. Go ahead. It's not better.
No.
Especially all you folks who said you were going to move if certain people get elected or certain people don't get elected or whatever. Go ahead, move. Have a good time with that. But yeah, I told you when I was in Dubai, number one question when they found out I was American, number one question was, what the hell are you doing? And I'm like, what do you mean? What the hell? I'm not doing anything, but we are trying to screw this up as quickly as possible. If you have any insight as to how we could do this more quickly and efficiently, I would love to hear that, and I'll take it back with me.
Right.
I mean, I didn't know what else to say.
Yeah.
Because that the rest of the world is hurting so much. And these were people from different parts of the world that were coming into Dubai as a very central place for vacations for many parts of the world. So it's really interesting because you can always run into somebody from, anywhere from Africa to the Middle East, the Far East, to anything. But interesting place, but and an interesting people.
Yeah,
we won't go there. But we're gonna get past this. This is a blip. We hope it's a blip, right? We can't necessarily say it's a blip just yet, but it could be. There's probably going to be a little more pain before this goes away, and the reason being is the cat's out of the bag.
Yeah.
So if we've already felt the pain, and it's okay to feel a little more pain because we know we're going to get past this, and we know there's more banks that are going to fail, and it happens all the time, 525 plus times in the last 20 years. So, we tend to, when we want to bleed out, we tend to want to do it all at once and then move on. So we'll see that happening. Good morning, Scott. I thank you for listening in, even though you were just standing next to me when we started the show.
Here's how much people love financial literacy. We had a table full of people. I said, hey, the internet's back up. You're welcome to stay as guests. Everybody left.
Might have been me saying, get out.
Gotta go. Yeah, you did say that.
Yeah, it's
okay. So as a normal person in the United States, around the world, then what do I do? Well, I just go to work, do nothing. Do I double down my bet?
It depends how old you are.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're in your early 20s, you do nothing.
Okay.
Because that's what you're best at. Because that's what they're all doing now. Trust me, I've told you, I get phone calls from friends of mine whose kids have graduated college within the last year, let's say, asking me if I could help talk to their child about, maybe getting a job, getting a career, what do they want to do? And I said, I can't help you anymore. I've talked to enough young adults to learn that it's like, why did you go to college? Well, you get a degree. Okay. Why did you get a degree in finance? Because I thought it would look good on my resume. It's not something you want to do? No, I have no interest. Was there anything you took in college that did interest you?
Yeah.
Not really. Well, okay. Hobbies. Do you have any hobbies? Well, I play video games.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is that a world that interests you? Because if it is, you should look into that world and see what jobs are available. Yeah, no, I just play God. I play games. I can't get anything out of them to work with. Nothing. And it just boggles my mind. Now, here's a great question. Why the hell did you go to college? Did you have a plan?
Well,
Mom and Dad, why did you send your kid to college and spend, six figures?
I was told to
on college.
All through school.
Because that's
all the teachers go to college, 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 go to college.
Yeah, we have that pressure in high school. Oh, you're not going to college? What are you, a dumbass? We have that pressure of saying vocational school is for those who can't get to college. It's not true. It's not. But here's the thing, mom and dad, why did you pay for your kid to go to college and then let him move back home and live in the basement doing nothing? I don't get it. They got a degree. Guess what? I don't.
Oh.
I wouldn't consider myself unsuccessful.
Well, you know,
You
there's
want to join in? Come on.
Sam Simpson, everybody rolling up.
Sam, how you doing?
Good.
I see you shaking your head over there, and you know,
Yeah.
like why do they pay for $100,000+ to send their kid to college and not have a plan about what they're going to do?
I'm actually going through this with my daughter right now.
I just went through two,
Yeah.
but both my kids are working.
Yeah, and she's 17. She graduated or stopped early, so December. So she graduates in May.
Okay.
And I've been talking to her. I'm like, what do you want to do? She loves art, right? She wants to do something art. She also wants to do documentaries.
Okay.
Well, I have some connections in the film industry, and it got her a call with the Academy Award winning director of documentaries.
Awesome.
Who's gonna walk her through the process, and here's where to go, and here's where to actually study if you want to study in a formal setting.
Yeah. Right.
I've told my kids, and Kent and I have talked about this for years. If you know what you want to do and it's something that you need a formal education for, by all means, go to school.
Mm-hmm.
If it's something you just need experience for, go get something in that field and go after it.
I agree with you. Obviously those who want to be doctors, lawyers,
Exactly.
Dentists and chemists and engineering and architecture. Yeah. I mean, but if you want to be any of those things, you might want to start thinking about that in 7th and 8th grade.
Yeah.
Because you should go into high school thinking about, okay, what math classes do I need to be taking that will get me to those better colleges, because it'll get me in a better situation.
And it's converse to my son, whereas my daughter wasn't sure. She's still not sure. My son's like, I want to either be an architect or I want to be an engineer.
Okay.
He's wanted that since he was reading how-to books when he was 3 years old in his crib. And we was sitting there and I was talking to him and I said, okay, so what electives are you taking in high school? He goes, well, I kind of want to take French because you take French. I said, no, you need to take Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Because
that's going to do better for you as an engineer or architect or whatever it is. If you're going to be on a job site and you're going to be talking to people, you're going to be talking to a foreman, whatever, you need to be strategic about this.
Yeah. We've already learned the French are a little bit behind the times in the tech world.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, they were trying to sell those submarines to Australia until they found out they were going to be obsolete.
But they're ahead of everyone in the paperwork. Doing enough paperwork in that place.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do think that and Ken and I have talked about this a lot, of the whole, go to school, get a good job. The whole that's great for some careers, but you have to be strategic nowadays, especially with the debt you're going to take on, and then there's no guarantee.
So
Still working those new lips.
So when I was a kid, high school in the 80s, graduated in 88, the big push was computer information systems. Now, I had no desire to do this.
That's right. You're younger.
But that's what everybody pushed. Hey, you go. So I went to school and I started working in CIS, computer information systems.
Mm-hmm.
Bored out of my mind. Absolutely bored out of my mind. However, my senior year in high school, we had an entrepreneurs class, and I took that, and I wanted, as every 18-year-old kid wants to do in Iowa, I'm going to own a bar. I'm going to open a bar, right?
Okay.
And the instructor looked at me and goes, Jones,
it's cheaper for me that way.
Yeah.
He says,
Yeah.
Jones, you're going to be the banker. I'm like, what? The banker? He goes, yeah. You're going to look at right? So he saw something in me, right, that I didn't. That was cool, right? Because now I've been in banking for 20 years or whatever, right? So you're kind of like, well, I look back at that now and go, huh, well, that's interesting. I've never opened a bar, right? But I have been an entrepreneur, and I still am today. But a lot of the issues are our educational system. Our educators never leave school.
Right.
Okay. Why on earth would I go and spend $100,000 a year or get in debt over $100,000 to learn business administration and business management from somebody who's never run a business? I don't care that you have your doctorate in business.
You know, I've been told a number of times by PhDs in finance that what I'm doing can't be done. And here we are putting on a whole global conference where we have
Right.
more than a dozen cities around the world doing
Right.
watch parties while we're in 6 countries. You know, see, this gets back to where I really wanted to go with this show, and that was you have to believe.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We don't provide that in our young adults anymore. There's no hope. There's no purpose that we give to these kids. We tell them, this is the way I did it. This is the way you do it. You go to high school, you go to college, you get out of college, you get a job, you get married, you buy a house, you have kids, yada, 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 and then, this is not my house. This is not my wife. The old song, and you turn around, and this happened to me. I looking down my driveway of my first home, and I'm like, wow, how did I get here?
Yeah.
I own this house. Those 2 cars down there at the end of the driveway, those are mine. And, and I got debt up the yin yang.
Yeah.
Because I'm living the American dream, which
Quote,
is
unquote.
typically off of credit cards, right? And
Yeah.
more so now than ever, right? At the highest interest rates ever on a credit card, 20.04 or 20.4
On the average.
on the
But
average.
most of them are higher.
Yeah.
Most people.
It's never
Yeah.
been that high in the history. But and we have a government that lives off of printing money.
Yeah.
And they want us to learn how to be financially literate and responsible.
Yeah.
The only difference is nobody's going after the government if they're
Right.
not paying their bills, but they're sure as heck coming after us if we don't pay our bills.
Yeah.
And, look at all the kids waiting around for that $10,000 help on their student loans,
Yeah.
right? And if you're
Unless
dumb
you
enough to get
yeah,
yourself into much trouble, you can get 20 grand.
which
you
is not that much for student loans.
No, it's not.
not at all.
When I did underwriting at a bank for a little while, I was doing student loans for some doctors that were $200,000 and $300,000 deep.
My stepbrother, he was a doctor, and I think it was like 15 years after he was a doctor. He goes, "Yeah, we're finally under 6 figures, for our loan." I'm like, "What?
Yeah,
That's too much."
yeah, it's crazy.
Now, I will
That
say
world's
this,
changing dramatically.
and I will say this. If your dream or if yours, right, not
Mhm.
not your parents, not your gym teachers, not your quote unquote high school counselor, because they don't, right? If it's your dream to go and get educated, go. I don't care whatever path you choose, right? But again, let's, to your point where you put it out there, you have to believe in what you're doing. Number one, you have to have a plan.
So
Now, I can
you
get
can have all the knowledge you want
Yeah.
about how to run a business, right? We
Yeah.
have this is our 3rd year. I know you like to say season, but it's
Yeah.
year for me because my season's 52 weeks. But
Yeah.
of teaching people how to build a business, but you could have soaked all of that in.
sure,
You could know inside and out how to do it.
sure,
You could have a great plan, but if you do not believe you can pull it off, it won't happen.
correct,
It won't happen.
right. You got to have that belief.
You got to believe.
Yeah, that's why I said you believe in what you're doing and keep it out there in front of you. I mean, so if you want to go get a doctorate in philosophy, which what are you going to do? Go sit on a mountain and write deep thoughts? I'm not sure, right? However,
Might go on Saturday Night Live maybe or something.
yeah, right. I don't know, right? But if you're doing it because your parents have choked it into you,
Right.
If you're doing it because the education system has choked it into you, then you got to kind of,
Or you feel the pressure
guess what?
from the kids.
Guess
They're,
what?
You go to a Carmel Catholic high school, they brag that 99.9% of these students go on to college.
Yeah, congratulations. Good for
Great.
you.
But that's not what I need to know.
Yeah.
I need to know how successful do they become,
Right.
and how you're part of it. Again, I go back to PhDs that tell me that what I'm doing can't be done, and I look at them. I said, no, what I'm doing can be done because I believe it can be done,
Sure.
and you don't.
Right.
And I know why you don't, because you don't have the other half of the equation.
Yeah.
You got the book smarts. You don't have the street smarts.
or the connection.
They can't see it.
Yeah.
They can't.
They can't see it. They don't have. They're not creative.
Well,
I
they
mean-
can't sell.
Yeah. Well, that too.
Right.
You know,
That's a big thing.
You got to be able to sell.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
You know, because you got to sell the idea, you got to sell the product, you got to
Yeah.
sell the service, you got to generate returns, and that's
Right.
a side that mindset doesn't understand, and that's fine. You know,
Right.
I'm not putting down the fact that you spent a whole boatload of money to go get your PhD and how many years of education to get out and make 50, 60 grand a year.
Well, right. That and Kevin Callback on Neighborhood Pulse says it all the time. You will go into $100,000 in debt and study for 4 years
Yeah.
for something. And then but if you decide you don't want to go to college, you don't want to have to pay and wait 4 years to make money in the real estate. I mean, that's right. So there's a lot of things. I mean, we're in we've had this place open for 5 years. I'm just starting to understand it.
I know.
Right.
Well, we've had the conversations, we
Yeah.
remember it wasn't that long ago when we talked about, is this a hobby or a business?
Right.
Right. But, and I'm hoping this show over the last 2 years inspired you to see that.
Right.
But again, in what you had to do is get your mindset right.
Correct.
Right. Because now you believe you can do it. And
Right.
I believe you can too, because I know you can.
Yeah.
And you're surrounding yourself with the right people. And you're making the right choices. You're making the right choices because you've learned many things that you need to know.
Yeah.
And the more you learn and the more knowledge you acquire, the more options you have to make the right choices. Right. We've talked about this. If you don't have any knowledge and you have two choices, to solve one issue or one problem, and neither one of those choices are good, you fail.
Yeah. I think where we fall as a nation, the United States, is we stopped being curious.
Mhm.
Right? Because you can find all the education you can on whatever it is if you're curious about it. But we start telling people, don't be curious. Just stick to the book. Don't go outside the book.
Don't rock the boat.
Don't rock
Yeah.
the boat. Right?
And if
Don't
you're
ask
naturally
questions.
passionate about something, you do go out and find all that information.
Right.
I mean,
Because you're curious.
I see my son Max using the golf, and he can. I can't get him away from the screen. I'm like, what are you watching? He goes, golf. Like everything about golf, right? He's just fanatical about it. He's OCD about it, right? But it's like, that's passion. Like, you want to see that. You want to learn about it. If you want to learn about something, you're naturally going to go and find everything you possibly can, whether it be right, wrong, or indifferent.
Until you get bored with it.
Exactly.
Right.
Or until it inspires you to go further and
Right.
deeper.
Right. Exactly.
Especially when it comes to financial literacy, especially
Yeah.
what's going on in the world today, we're not curious enough.
Mhm.
Right. And we don't believe in ourselves enough.
We're taught not to talk. We're taught not to. Don't tell anybody about your
Mhm.
great idea.
You know,
Don't shh, keep it close. Just we're taught to keep it close to the cuff,
Yeah.
as we say.
Stifle the flame.
And I got to tell you, I blew that out of the water and said, no, you have to do the opposite.
Mhm.
Get out there. A year and a half ago, I was a financial advisor
yeah.
doing a radio show,
Yeah.
right? Trying to help people understand how to build a business. Now I'm no longer an advisor.
Mhm.
I don't practice
Right.
because I'm building a business, and it, you have to buy into the fact that the more people you talk to, the more more information you get. I'm now where I was talking to people in McHenry and Lake County a
Yeah.
year and a half ago. I'm now talking to people all over the world.
Right.
Yeah.
Not a day goes by I'm not on the phone with somebody in some other part of the world having a conversation, and a lot of it has to do with the wonderful VC Latinx conference we're putting on, and my partner Deb and Ram Gayos are putting on at the end of May. And it's just amazing the different levels you can reach. Did I ever dream that I'd be talking to somebody that's a delegate to the G20?
Wow.
Right.
or on the board of the NASDAQ exchange? No,
Right.
I mean, it's just.
Well, I was talking with some guys and they were asking about the station, and I was just telling them, I go, I never knew the doors that would open up. I said, I've sat with these people, I've sat with this football player, this entrepreneur, these and names that they're going,
Yeah, but they got it
seriously?
because they opened their mouth and they were talking
Right.
about it. They were
Right.
seeking help. They
Right.
were seeking advice. They were seeking
Yeah.
understanding, and they let people know.
Yeah.
Because the one thing everybody loves to do, they love to help.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You're right.
Yeah.
Everybody loves
Yeah,
to help.
love
So
that.
what was it for you that made that switch?
Well,
Was it the self-talk? Was it the belief in yourself? Like, what was it?
it's believed.
Mhm.
I just knew
There was
that-
more.
I knew I could do this.
So listen, last week we had Nick on, right?
Yes,
Nick Ferriolo, right?
Fariolo. Yeah,
And
talking about
amazing,
gremlins.
yeah, and amazing, and I have dug into that now, and my gremlin is Gerald, and my girls at home are laughing at me. They're like, Gerald. I go, listen, I've battled Gerald my whole life.
Yeah.
I said, but it was always Gerald always won. I mean, Nick opened my eyes, you know,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and
Mine too.
and I sit there and go, it was brilliant. You know, I actually went back, I listened to it 2 or 3 times. I'm like, man, this is just brilliant, right? It's something I kind of already knew,
We all had known in
but
us.
he
Right.
put a little twinkle on it,
Yeah.
right? Sprinkled a little something on it that made me go,
Identified it in a way that, yeah.
Well,
Right.
don't bury it.
right.
Bring it out.
And now
Party. Get
and
rid of it.
now, you know, I'm like, all right, Gerald, bring it, because tell me I can't. I'm
Right.
going to show you I can.
Right.
And it's just that, and now it's that belief of, oh wait, I wasn't the only one struggling with that inner voice, even though I've read so many books about it and things like that. But it was through this show, through this station, where I go, oh,
Well, Sam, and I can tell you, it feels like a calling.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Right. So, what's the difference between somebody who comes up with a great idea and a calling? Somebody comes up with a great idea, you know, it may or may not work. It may or may not be
Yeah.
successful. You may or may not write a plan or anything. With a calling, I don't have a choice.
I was going to say it's negotiable. You know, an idea is negotiable. Yeah, maybe I'll do it. Maybe I won't. Depends
Right.
on the circumstance, you know, situation, whatever it may be.
According to our illustrious president, he announced earlier this week that 10 million businesses have been registered since he came into office. 10 million.
that's good for him.
All right. So now I know 9,999,000 that are probably going to fail because they start a business, they hang a shingle up, and they think, all right, well, as soon as I put the sign up, they're coming.
Yeah.
Here's the opposite. I did the exact opposite. We purposely didn't put our shingles up. We purposely do not have a website right now
Build it
because we're purposely building a business before we want word to get out there what we're doing, because we don't want to be inundated with what we believe is going to be a strong
Right.
product and service that we're providing. Lo and behold, it already it happened anyway.
I know.
It has, and the funny part is our original business plan, which we are now rewriting,
Mhm,
was and pitch deck was for U.S. only.
mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And the
Mhm.
funny part is we're now in about 15 cities at least globally,
It's
and
awesome.
none in the U.S.
That's awesome.
It's just crazy. So things can, you know, you have a belief, you have an idea, be fluid.
Yeah.
Don't
I like that.
don't put the blinders on
No.
and say I can only go down this road and I can't even see the fork.
Right.
I'm just going straight, and you never know.
Yeah.
It's like one of the things that they talk about in basketball. Let the game come to you.
Yeah.
You know, let the game let just go for it and let things come to you. The options will the options will open up.
Yeah, it does if you're not so narrowly focused
Yep.
to only see the one thing.
Well,
Happens to golfers a lot.
Yeah.
and so you have to understand, right? So, my daughter, she's going to go through her clinicals here, and her dream is to be an EMT on the Flight for Life. That's her dream,
Oh
right?
boy.
So she's going through her clinicals for EMT. So will have her degree, and she'll be able to be an EMT. But you got to have 3 years on the ground before you can jump into the Flight for Life, right?
Makes sense.
Yeah. When coming out of high school, she's like, I want to be a registered nurse. I want to travel, be a traveling nurse, make good money, right? And then in the process of it, she finds the passion and the rush and the adrenaline of being an EMT. And first thing that was said, Alice was like, well, you're not going to make much money. Right, as if and a lot of times that now we as parents are always wanting the best for our kids, but really you kind of just planted a seed of poo-pooing
Well,
that child's dream.
let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So we want the best for our kids. What does that mean? We want our kids making the most money.
Yeah. What is the definition?
A better
know,
life, yeah.
A
Less
better
stressful,
life.
who
What's
knows,
what's
yeah.
that mean?
Right.
You know, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. What does that mean?
It's the biggest
know,
lie in the world.
So much-
Exactly.
So much BS that we pass along that we've been taught.
Yeah.
And then we pass it along.
Bumper sticker.
You know,
Yeah.
like I always say, when I used to stand up in front of groups and talk as an advisor, and he used to say, okay, there's two things I know you spouses never talk about: money and sex. And I always say, I'm here to help you with one of those. Try and break up the monotony. But the reality
Right.
is how many people actually really have that birds and the bees talk with their child?
Mhm.
How many people ever talk about money?
Right.
They don't.
Yeah.
And why don't you? Because you don't know anything about it.
Right.
So why we don't talk about what we don't
Yeah.
know about, and
Right.
and we don't take the time to go learn either
Right.
Correct.
if it doesn't interest us in any way. So then we throw our money into banks and we throw it at financial advisors, and
Yeah.
then the market goes bad. And you look at your advisor and say, "What the hell is going on? And why didn't you know it and see it?"
Right,
Well,
right, right.
because it was in the future, and we don't know that.
Right.
And actually,
Right.
by law, we're not allowed to predict the future based on past.
Right.
So, by law, the only business in the world, by law, that cannot predict the future based on the past, yet everybody else does it.
Yeah.
Every business does it. So it's a complicated world,
Mhm.
right? And what we need to do is I think what we need to do is focus and simplify a little bit. We need to teach young adults things like believe in yourself. We need to teach them
Yes.
skills, negotiating skills.
There's
How to
skills.
network.
there's two
How to
things.
build
that-
relationships.
Mhm.
There's two things that I think that college, that high schools should have mandatory. One is conflict resolution, or some way to like deal with other people and negotiate and talk to them, and just whatever it may be.
Mhm.
Because we have a lot of
I like that.
de-escalation of a situation, how
Yeah.
to just communicate. And the other thing is even if you bring in somebody, if you could, I don't know how this would happen, but some kind of, how does credit work? How does actual some
I got that covered.
right
That's what he does.
right exactly financial
It's
literacy
literally his job.
financial literacy 101, that should be mandatory in high schools.
We're doing a whole conference in 6 Latin American countries
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah.
So
It's awesome.
and credit is very important. It's
Mhm.
Credit's different in different countries
Of
and
course.
things of that
Yeah.
nature. But we could go down a rabbit hole on
Of
credit,
course, yeah.
right now, because what we use to determine credit scores right now is probably the worst system available to us to use.
Mhm.
And I say available to us to use.
And we keep tweaking it, making it worse. Actually,
Well, we keep tweaking it to make it better, but nobody will do the better product.
correct.
Mhm.
Correct.
Nobody will do the better way of judging and scoring.
Correct.
So now we try to tweak it by saying, okay, we're going to include utilities
Yeah.
or rent.
Yeah.
Now we're going to include rent because if you paid rent on time, you must be a good person. Well, okay. I mean, the reality is credit. You want credit really to work well for you? Pay your bill 10 days before it's due.
Yes.
Not the day it's due, 10 days before it's due.
Right.
You'll just trust me on that.
Right.
You'll see a difference in your score.
Pay it twice a month.
Quickly. Well, that doesn't help if you're on that program, but all that does is, because you get paid twice a month in your paycheck or something, but
Well, no,
spreads it out,
if you, yeah, but if
because
you
people don't save.
right,
Right.
that's the issue.
Yeah, we don't.
Yeah.
Everybody says save. The last generation that saves were my grandparents.
It's been-
Well,
it's been a while.
so
yeah,
so
because they went through the depression.
so and I know, Bill, you guys, you have this, in the business you guys are creating, but people don't understand interest. They don't understand compounding.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
It's either your friend or your enemy, and for most of us, it's the
Yeah.
enemy.
Just ask anybody, what's the difference between interest and compounding interest?
Mhm.
I mean, you're right. Right.
I don't know. I don't find this very interesting. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And
Yeah.
so people just let others handle the money and then blame them when it doesn't go the way they expect.
Right.
So I'll give you an idea. How I know all you corporate folks out there aren't listening to the show because you're working hard and stuff, but you got a 401k. Nobody knows how much to put into a 401k.
Right.
And I mean, how much? Not dollars, but percentage, right?
Correct.
Percentage of your pay.
Mhm.
And okay, a lot of advisors say, well, if they're matching 3%, then you put 3% in. And then there's other advisors that say, no, you got to put 15% in. And, and there's reasons for that, but none good. But, it's hilarious. When I worked at Bank of America, I was probably doing 30 plus people's 401ks
Mhm.
because they had no clues what to do with it.
Yeah.
And then they put it in. All right. Now you got all the money going into 401k and you don't think about it. You don't look at it. You don't know what it's costing you. You don't, you might see a statement every once in a while, maybe once a year, because now you got to re-up everything, right? Or make changes. And you don't pay attention.
Right.
And then you get into your mid 50s or late 50s, your kids just finished college. And all of a sudden you go, what's next? Retirement. Wonder where I'm at. I have no idea where I'm really at.
Yeah.
And how much do I need?
Right.
And how long is it going to last?
That's the thing. How much do I need?
How much do I need and how long is it going to last?
Yeah.
2 number 1 questions.
Yeah.
I said, well, depends, because if you're not set up properly, won't matter.
Right.
Yeah.
Won't
Could have
matter.
$1 billion. And
It's a moot point.
You get
Yeah.
you have a heart attack. You have heart problems, or you have other major problems, Alzheimer's or something like that. Trust me, you're going to suck that money up real quick. And people don't think about that. People don't plan for that. And what do? You leave a spouse behind with no money.
Yep.
And now instead of 2 Social Security incomes, she only has 1.
Mhm.
And I say she because it's typically the band that
they die.
men drop dead, women fight.
That's right.
Give you an example. My mom's been in a home for 9 years at $7,000 a month with Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
Now, if she gets fully diagnosed Alzheimer's, because there are stages,
Yeah.
Right.
when you reach certain stage, you have to go into different homes. Those homes cost $15,000 to $25,000 a month. Who plans for that? Nobody.
Nobody. No average person.
Number 1 fear in retirement: running out of money.
Running out of money.
Yeah.
So here we go right back to what we always preach: plan.
Mhm.
Plan. And even if you plan, it doesn't hurt to check those plans. I was on the phone with a gentleman 2 days ago that said, I've got I've got this long-term care product. And he said, every year the price just keeps going up. I go, really? He said, I'm a certified long-term care specialist. I said, so tell me, what kind of policy do you buy? Well, I don't know. Okay. Because typically buying the right policy, the price is fixed.
Right.
It's a certain amount per month for a certain number of months or years. And you get this X benefit. But he said, because of inflation, it's keeping up with inflation. I go, okay, there's riders for that too. But he didn't really know. And I said, are you and your wife both on it? Because, yeah, I think so. I said, well, you should know, because there's really only 1 or 2 products out on the street that can do that. So all of a sudden now he's going to bring it for me to review, which I'm like, okay, I just walked into that one because I don't want to do that part of my world anymore, because I don't have the time.
Mhm.
But, so again, if you're talking with an advisor, don't buy anything and don't buy into anything until you understand it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't be sold anything by a person who isn't clear and makes sure that you understand it. That's the key. That's the real difference between a good advisor and one who's in it for the money.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, you definitely should have some kind of basic knowledge or understanding of it.
Yeah.
And they definitely
And it's not easy. They don't make investing easy, right? Everybody, you get your statement from, I'm not going to name names, just you get your statement from your account, and quarterly.
Mhm.
All you do is look at, is the bottom line bigger than it was of the
Right.
previous statement?
That's right.
Kind of like a lot of small business owners. They just look at what they started with, how much they spent, how much they brought in, and what's left over.
Yeah, which way am I going?
Yeah, and people do that with their investments.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, well, how much are you paying? And what? I said, well,
Right.
let's look on your
Yeah.
statement. Let's see what you're paying. They can't find it.
Right.
You know, I love that commercial that's on TV a lot right now that says, we make more money when our clients make more money. Hello. Clear flag, they're charging a percentage of assets under
course.
management.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a complicated world, though. It's on purpose. The
For
financial
sure.
world, the insurance world, the health world, all of these worlds are complicated. So, you can't be good at everything and efficient at
Right.
everything. But so you do have to rely on others, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't do due diligence.
But vet them. Yeah.
You're not going to, an oral surgeon to
Right.
have to get your heart valve changed.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. Yeah.
But,
and that comes down to doing your due diligence, your research, vetting them, getting referrals, whatever it may be. You always want to make sure that you're with a competent person. And I would rather piecemeal my people together, my advisors together on specialty rather than taking one guy that thinks he knows everything.
Yeah, it's so I knew when I went into the advising world that I had to know insurance and investing.
Right.
And I've been in the investment world a long time. And so I learned the insurance world because they go together. Because otherwise you can wind up with a CPA, a lawyer for your trust,
right,
an insurance guy, an investment guy, and none of them know what the other one's doing.
Right.
And that doesn't necessarily put you in a better position.
True. It's all about communication.
It is. And we got way off the track from talking about kids in college and all that stuff.
That's the joy of it.
But we need,
I believe this was the right topic.
We need to give these kids the ability to believe in themselves, believe in what they're doing, to chase after what they want to chase after. We need to get them to have hope and purpose. And right now, kids do not have hope and purpose.
Well, and I got a quote that I used to say a long time ago. No one grew up with a poster of a cubicle on their wall saying, "One day I want to work a 9 to 5." They just don't.
I have Farrah Fawcett.
Yeah, exactly. You had sports, you had whatever it was. You never dreamed of just being average. You never dreamed of doing that. But we get beat down and beat down and beat down and beat down. So we don't believe we can do anymore. We don't go after it.
And who beats us down?
Our parents. Usually our parents or teachers are
It's typically
peers.
the people closest to us.
Exactly.
Well, we talk about the word believe, right? To your friends who say, "Can you talk to my kids?" Maybe you should talk to the parents, because 9 times out of 10, the parents don't believe that their kids can make it.
Right.
Okay.
Well,
So
right,
as I say that, when my daughter went away to college, right? When my daughter went away to college, I took everything out of her room. And she's like, "Dad," I'm like, no, you're gone. You're now a guest here.
You are not coming back.
You're now a guest here.
Change
right?
locks.
So
Lights are
so
out.
you can, but and she's like, "That's harsh." I go, "That's reality."
Right.
I said, "You're welcome to come back, but your little sister wants your room because your room is the cool room."
There's
Right?
a Motel 6 down the road.
Right. And so, now I've got a 20-year-old who's, and I told my kids, I gave them the General Motors. I was like, 30 years and out. You're welcome to stay here 30 years, but then you got to go. Right. Now, I know in my heart of hearts, they don't want to be there for 30 years. Right.
Right.
But now my 13-year-old daughter is looking at my 20-year-old daughter going, "This is what I'm going to do with your room down here."
Exactly.
So you brought up Nick Ferriola, and
Yeah.
he brought up a very important, mindset change.
Yes.
Right. By asking the question, changing it. It's like, the children, young adults, they come home, they're not motivated to work, not motivated to find a job. And what they are doing is they're fulfilling what they believe their parents expect of them.
That's correct. That's
because
correct.
my parents don't expect much from me, and that's what they're going to get.
Your limiting belief, and this is the other.
So instead of saying what's wrong with you, or instead of saying parents, blaming parents or something, just say, "Hey, why do you feel you're in this situation here?" Because just changing a question can alter a mindset.
Yeah. And you go back and revisit that. I'm not on all the platforms, but Nick also said our limiting beliefs are not our beliefs. They're somebody else's we've chosen to accept and adopt.
Yeah.
Right.
Amazing.
I mean, if you believe somebody else can do something, that means you can.
That's right.
Correct.
That's right.
It's but again, we
Yeah. I mean, go back.
I can tell you there's such a thirst for this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That literally in 2 months, from concept of a conference in 6 Latin American countries, inside of 2 months, we're now in every corner of the world.
Thousands
Every country
of people have signed up.
every continent,
So awesome.
because it just exploded.
Mhm.
Be way beyond our wildest
Yeah.
dreams.
People are hungry, and I think
People are starving,
For sure.
Yep.
starving for this. But
All right, listen, that we're on the back end of this, Bill. Thanks, folks, for hanging out a little bit
Thanks for
off
joining in,
time.
Sam.
Yeah, thank you.
appreciate it.
A little bit off time, but we had internet problems, and when you run an internet radio station and you don't have that first word, well, hard to do. Comcast just sent me a text that everything is taken care of, everything's up and running now, so we held tight, which is wonderful. So we've got Neighborhood Pulse, we've got In Those Steph and Joe, we got a lot of good things coming up still this afternoon.
Awesome.
Look forward to that. Bill, can't thank you enough. And of course, if you need to know anything, about it, check them out. Innovative Strategies all over Facebook, all over.
Next
the
week, I
internet.
think we have a 7-time CEO.
7 times.
7-time CEO joining.
It's like a national champ. We'll get the championship belt out for him. There we go. For all of us here at 21.6 Net, thanks for getting caught in the net. This has been Innovative Strategies with Bill Hussey.